Hello there, I am Ken. Welcome to my kickoff episode of my new channel, CdLS Dads, here on YouTube. Now, before I get going, some of you already know that I have an Instagram page and that I have some live episodes or a catalog, library, archive, whatever you want to call it, of some live episodes that I've shot, as well as some on-topic type things that you can search. Instagram decided somewhere mid-path when I started that page about, I don't know, 6 or 7 months ago, that you had to have 1,000 followers before you could shoot live stuff. So I've been limited kind of to doing minute-and-a-half clips, mainly about the life of my daughter Tammy, who is, everything gets turned around here. This is my daughter Tammy. Yeah, you're going to find out that there's a lot of guitar stuff going on here. But Tammy, I was her father for 18 and a half years, and she passed away in November of 2024 at age 18 and a half plus 1 day. And I think you'll learn that days are significant to us parents. So I'm used to shooting live episodes, so if you're expecting formality and all kinds of editing tricks, or me to sell you a book, or this to be about a lot of grieving and stuff like that, it's not. The reason I started this channel was, without realizing it, I was pretty much involved as a father in a lot of aspects of Tammy's life. Now, I was born into a blue-collar family, and let's just put it this way. Sometimes guys are not the best parent. So sometimes we have we kind of like think that we're going to go to work all day, we're going to come home, and it's going to be quiet there, and everybody's going to be, oh, look, it's Dad, and everything's wonderful. And then we have interactions with our children. We tend to be the fun person or whatever. And I will get into this in another episode, but sometimes it's real easy to kind of check out more than we already do when it comes to a special needs child. Now, if you're the parent of a special needs child, or you have a friend that has one, or your grandchildren have issues or whatever, this is not boys only club, but I think if you're a female, you might find some of the stuff I say interesting. Now, I need to introduce you to Chick Flick Teal Pointer. I use this a lot. I'll refer to different things and point whatever. I think my teacher had the earliest version of this when I was a kid, but I think that everybody could be a better parent, but sometimes if you were to say who pays the most attention to you, who is there when it comes time to do the very basic things when kids are infants, and schoolwork and homework, I think a lot of times somebody would say Mom, but Dad's a lot of fun, right? So, what about Tammy? Well, Tammy was born very small. She was born early, and it took us 18 months to get a diagnosis. And a lot of my experience was kind of like a lot of looks in the store, a lot of, I wonder what's wrong with that. You'd see kids whispering to their mom and that kind of thing. And for the first 18 months of her life, we did not know what it was. And then when we find out, it's kind of one of those things where somebody comes in the room and a doctor has people with them, and they introduce themselves, and you find and hear the words psychologist or psychiatrist or mental health expert or whatever. So you know you're going to hear something. When you hear it, what's the first thing you do? It's a genetic abnormality that affects, depending on who you talk to, 1 in 10,000, 1 in 50,000 live births. So it's not well known, and that comes into play, and I'm going to have some episodes about that. Before I get going here any farther, I'm really long-winded, so sometimes I, will get to talk, and I'm comfortable talking about this. So there is no topic that you could send me an email about that I wouldn't find a way to talk about it and discuss it and share my experience. Now, my experience comes in a couple of ways. First off, it is beginning of fall 2025, and I am 65 years old, so I was an older parent, and I have 4 other children besides Tammy. So when you start looking at me in my 20s, when I was working in oil field boom towns and running all over the place and had long hair and was running cranes and moving drilling rigs, and I was a different kind of parent then, and so you evolve as a parent, and when you get older and you're basically the age of what a grandparent could be, your look is a little bit different, and I think you might be more cognizant of what's going on rather than being the new parent where you're just kind of like, oh, okay, I guess we have a baby. That means I have to buy a washer and dryer and sell my dirt bike. Yeah, I try to make this funny and whatever, but so I'm an older parent, and I was with Tam for 18 and a half years, so I've been through the neonatal unit. I've been through the Head Start programs that you'll find in county offices and early intervention therapies. I'm familiar with speech, OT, PT, and you might see some people come on here that were actually Tammy's paraprofessionals at school. She had a myriad of doctors at Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. I tried to keep everything there so a doctor could pull up records and all that kind of thing. And we get into the medical stuff. Again, Tam passed away suddenly about 10 months ago, a few days ago. So I'm able to talk about a lot of different things from the perspective of a parent having to advocate for a child with special needs, and one with a genetic rarity that even if people mean really well, it's really hard to get information about this, and again, healthcare is its own thing. We'll separate that. And if you're watching my channel, I'm going to dump this all into a series of playlists. There will be a big one where it starts off with episode 1. I'll try to number the episodes, try to remember to do that so we can refer to them with my pointer and say, okay, I was talking about that in episode 25 or whatever. By the way, I'm a pretty good veteran of YouTube. My guitar channel has, I think, going on 500 weekly videos, but we'll get to that in a minute. So, navigating parental issues, medical stuff, therapies, school. Now, let's talk about that for a minute. I am a 10-year veteran of service on the school board, and I went to the school board meetings for 5 years before I ran for election. So I've been through public elections. I know what that's all about. I know what the pressure of that is. I know a lot about people's different motivations. I know the fine balance of having a special needs child and not focusing your school politics on the needs of your specific child, so I've navigated that. So any of you parents out there that have educational issues that you don't understand, special day class, IDEA law, therapies, legal issues, I am the one of 5 people in the back room that when people file state complaints and things, I'm the one that is discussing that and making decisions in the back room, and staff brings a recommendation that may be a lawyer just saying, hey, you know what, you really need to pay this one off because somebody did this or this or this, and that has nothing to do with the child. So again, parent, school board, public, elected official. And then my day job, I keep that separate. I mean, if you know my name, it's pretty easy to find. But I work for a municipality that has a wonderful reputation, very high standards, and I know how to navigate things that require public process, writing reports, making recommendations to commissions, to city council, doing budgets, laying out 5-year plans, all that kind of thing. So if you're ever concerned with how do you navigate bureaucracy, there's a certain amount of that in relief programs, when you're advocating for your child to get assistance in certain programs, when you're working through stuff like IHSS, finding care, finding respite, getting a break, creating balance in your life. I've been through a lot of those things and I understand them. And again, I work for a governmental agency that we hold public hearings. People are highly involved in the decisions that are made, and the governing body that I report to as an employee is pretty demanding. And so I don't take sketchy projects and just dump them in the lap of elected officials. So my bad ideas or lack of effort, organization, putting a good package together, presenting it well, writing it well, I don't dump that in people's lap, and I certainly don't like it as a school board member. And then finally, the most interesting thing I think about what you'll see here, and it will keep the guys involved, whether you like dealing with some of the difficult topics I'm going to talk about in navigation. This is one of my guitar shops, and you're going to see a lot of guitars come through because there's a certain part of all of this story that has a lot to do with guitars. Tammy was not verbal. She never said a word in her life. She had so much speech language pathology. Again, never said a word. I never heard her say the word daddy. You will see videos of her playing guitar. You will see her signing guitars, and you'll find out pretty quick that this shop ships out guitars to blues players all over the world. It is not a financial thing. It is not my day job. But the story of the guitars started off with this one. I was told that Tammy had the cognitive capacity of a 4 to 7 month old when she was 5 years old, and that wouldn't improve much at adulthood because of the issues, microcephaly, her size, her cognitive limitations. A neuropsych evaluation determined there was necrosis on her brain lobes, fine motor skills problems, major motor skill problems. We thought maybe she had an auditory processing delay, so when you talk to her, if you didn't know the sign language she was teaching, shout out to Signing Times. Rachel with Signing Times. You'll either like it or you won't, but if your kid is able to give you any indication of their potential, it's a good thing. The communication stuff, we can talk about that, but there was an evaluation by a psychologist, and it was the Wisco block test where you stack the blocks and you try to mimic what's going on, and they determine, whether your cognitive capacity over that. And I could tell that Tammy was trying to be responsive with her signs, or she was trying to respond but being slower, but there was no way for her to to display her potential. So the comment came up, she's between 4 and 7 months old cognitively, and she's likely to stay there. Well, I knew that she liked music, and I knew that she could move to music. And so when I asked, what is basically the foundation of that prognosis, and it was lack of emerging math skills. So I'm thinking 7-month-old, 8-month-old, what kind of math is involved? You're crawling around and then you see a circle over here and a square over here, or there's a ball over here and nothing here. And it was kind of like that. So I thought, if she could move to music and understand that there's a beat, then there has to be some understanding of math, because there's lines, there's spaces, there's flags on the notes, meaning there's a quarter, there's a whole. It's kind of like three-dimensional math, or music seems to be an algebraic equation to me. So in order to prove a point, I got on the internet. I found a guy named C6 Steve playing a guitar made out of a cigar box. It had all kinds of matchbooks on it and stickers and stuff like that. So I put this together. I don't play guitar. I didn't know anything about it. I just put this together. It's the age of YouTube. And then I built a box and put a license plate on it, this box, and it has a pickup in it, so when you stomp on it and hook it up to an amp, it makes noise. And I sat her in a chair, and I turned on the camera, and I handed her the guitar. She strummed it and kicked the box. And that movie, when introduced into an IEP meeting, which in the United States is a individual education plan, it changed the way people looked at Tammy. And so I've taken that. Tammy would sign the guitars. People sent Tammy's message all over the world. I'm going to give you a link to an artist named Margaret Garrett. Tammy brought me her iPad that she wouldn't use to communicate. Communication is either conceptual or contextual, and contextual means parroting and basically responding to the adults for the most basic primate needs. We can talk about that, but she brought me a YouTube video of Margaret Garrett of Mr. Airplane Man playing a song called Sun Sinking Low. I built her a guitar out of a cigar box, and then you can access what Margaret had to say about that up there, but that's where the guitars come from. We make them out of all kinds of things: coffee cans, cigar boxes, license plates, and again, Tammy would sign them. This is a 1950 Silvertone arch top. People would get them out of the Sears catalog, and we get these. They're round, pick them up at yard sale. This one was signed by Tammy. My YouTube channel will tell you what these guitars are, how they're fixed, how they're made, if you have any interest in that. Again, I'm not here to sell stuff. These went out a lot with no money exchanged. In fact, this is the last one Tammy signed. And unfortunately, right after she signed it, before the guitar had the electronics and everything put in it, it had a little tumble and the headstock broke off. And I thought it was shot. And so, anyway, I put this back together. There's some movies of it out there, and in a couple days, it is going to go out to Mississippi. It's going to catch a band's gear truck, and it'll be floating around for a couple days in a case, and then it'll end up in Memphis, where our friend of the channel, Cody Harold, yeah, they actually work. I'm excited about this one over here, that first one I showed you, because it's going to go to somebody with CdLS. There's a family get together down in Orange County in November, and this one is a good acoustic, but it also so there's a little girl up in Northern California that Tam signed this one. It's going to go to her, and the story's going to go on. So the music is really... I swore that I would not get long-winded this evening, and so this is going to be a good place to stop this episode. Oh, I do want to tell you that I'm going to give you a link up here to the interview I did with the Canadian Cornelia de Lange Foundation, and it was filmed a couple weeks after Tam had passed away, so it's pretty raw. We talk about a lot of different things, and the person that interviewed me is the director of the Canadian National Foundation, and we had a great conversation, and there was a lot of insight coming from her to me that I wish I would have known in the time that I had the chance to be Tammy's parent while she was still alive. So again, I'm going to give you a link to that up there. I am going to do a few episodes. I think the first one I have in mind is going to be called Fighting for Nothing, and it talks about coming to grips with the reality and then how you avoid taking the prognosis and what people think it means personally to you, where you actually undermine your child getting the maximum amount of help that they can from people that want help but just don't know how to. So if you subscribe, you will get a notification when I put something out there. I don't know how frequently it's going to be. It's going to be well thought out. There's going to be an email at the end here, and if you have an idea of a topic that you would like to have discussed, or you have a specific question about medical stuff, educational stuff, setting up a conservancy, you know, how to read the reports that are coming out, whether they would be an educational assessment or you know, speech language pathology report for a triennial or some medical thing or whatever, just send me an email and tell me how we could have a discussion, at least my take on it. And this is going to be an opportunity, I think, for you to sit your husband down or the males in your family and say, look, this guy's got guitars, so if you want to do nothing but see the cool guitars, you know, give this guy a watch, and I'll try to keep it light and whatever. But yeah, I love this picture. This is Tammy and I taken in Ventura on the fender or running board of Richie Vanderwick's truck. Frank Goldwasser and him would play music. That's the Texas Junk Pile. You know what, I'll give you a link to that episode so we can get off on the guitars and get people's attention. But thanks for watching. I hope you'll subscribe, and I hope you'll give me some input. This is very helpful to me to get this out. I never want to be sad about being Tammy's dad. So thanks for watching, and send me an email. I want to know what you want to hear.